I met a gypsy.
So to talk about the technique thing, again, I had like there was some video, I can't remember what one it was. It's just you riding outdoors in Florida on the 450, like when you kind of first got on the 450. And so you changed my riding style completely. I watched this video and I was just like studying this video. I just put it on like, because I feel like we've established we're fairly similar in our mentality and stuff. Like, even though I suck at racing and I'm never going to be a professional racer, the point of me riding is just to get better at it. It's just what I care about. That to me is the fun. And I'm the same with golf. Like, I've been super obsessed with golf. Same with surfing. And it's like, I like to improve. That to me feels like fun. And so anyway, I'm like watching this video and I've slowed it down on YouTube and I like have a click moment where I like figure out, I'm like, okay, Chase Sexton's kneecap is never in front of the front arch of his foot. And it's just like, so I don't know if that makes sense to you or like what your thought of it is, but it's like, as soon as you go from like your sitting position to like your standing attack position, your knee literally goes back to like level, like straight up and down like your shin bone, or back further, and then that like tips the chest down flat and then puts the ass out backwards. So it's like that to me, I feel like you're like one of the pioneers of that technique. Is that a thing that you figured out? Is that like a natural thing that you did, or like what? Like, I don't even know if this even makes sense.
It makes sense, but it's been so drilled into my mind about, my dad never rode a dirt bike, or he rode a little bit. He was never good, but he's really good at picking up what people do really good and picking pieces of people's riding styles and putting it into mine. And I do everything. Not one part of me on the track when I'm racing or riding is worried about technique. I just somehow, that's one thing I'm grateful for, because I can just do that and not have to think about it. And obviously I have my dad there to watch if I'm doing something wrong. So I'm kind of have that ease where I'm not worried about technique. But I don't even pay that much attention to my own riding style to even think about that, because I'm always working on what other people do better, because I'm trying to build what I can do better. And I feel like technique is kind of my strong point. So I'm always looking on, like we talked about before, what I can do better and what I need to improve on. So what you're saying, I've never even noticed. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd be interested like to go and watch, and like that it's new, man. Like that's the new way that people ride. And I mean, I trained like as hard as I guess I could with all like my work commitments and stuff. Like this year I'm going to go do the same race again, but I'm going to try and train like a little bit harder for it. But man, like it's funny. I've just never thought about motocross in the same sense that I would think about like golf or jiu-jitsu. And to me, like you would think, if I say like, oh, that's like my swing thought. So like when you swing a golf club, you've got a certain thought in your head, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's like, I need to get into like this position. And I'm sort of for the first time over these last few years, like trying to relate riding back to golf and, jiu-jitsu and the thing where it's so technical, because like that's my strong point in those sports, is like my ability to like look at technique. It's just really hard to put it into play. But yeah, I mean, that was like I guess my first ever swing thought in moto was to never let, in a standing position, never let my kneecap go in front of like the front arch of my foot. So I'd be pretty interested to see you like watch that, technique. But to me, it was just like go from sitting and just throw my knees back like as far as possible, and that get into that position. And, I went to that race in Manji and like, I actually did fairly good, and I was doing the same thing. Like I just paused the video at that certain times and like the knees go back, and like it changed like everything. And what you were saying before about like technique being the thing that lets you go fast, like I actually did go faster just purely because I felt safer. Mm-hmm. Like it's not like the speed thing. Like I always just thought that I was like kind of scared to go that fast. But I think the reality is that you're not in a position that lets you go fast comfortably to where like you can predict what the bike's going to do. But when you get into these like really strong technical positions, that's just like the geometry wise, like that's the thing that lets the bike go faster, and then you don't feel the speed as such.
Yeah, I'd actually be interested. So I feel like my style really changed. I started doing foundation training, which is basically a postural restoration. It's basically like where you feel anchored to the ground, and you use a lot of your feet by squeezing in, and you basically use your body as like you try and create as much tension with your body as possible in a stance. Like it's called the founder. If you look it up, I think what you're saying with my riding style is a lot to do with that. And I started doing that 3-4 years ago. So when we get off this, look at foundation training and start doing it, because I don't do it as much anymore, but it really helps you. If you look at the inside of my boots, they're all like from the toe to all the way back to the heel is all just destroyed. And that's basically creating just tension inward on my bike. And I would say that's probably a little bit of what you're talking about, and getting your hips back and your knees back as well is a lot to do with this. It's called a founder hold, and I'd be interested if you actually started doing it, if it become natural, because like I said, when I ride, I'm more focused on lean angle, trying to just be more consistent and be planted in the corners, and I'm not thinking about my elbows, my knees, my leg. I'm focused on keeping my leg obviously off the ground. And I've been focusing a lot on keeping it on the pegs when I don't need to. And I stand a lot. So I focus on that stuff, and mostly just entry speed and making one arc and just stuff like that. And stuff with the whoops, not chopping the throttle on the first one. And just honestly basic things like stuff that you could teach a beginner, because that's what makes the track fluid. And when you get a flow, it just all comes together. So that's what I think about. I really don't think about anything too complicated, because I think I've been it's been ingrained in my mind that I don't really have to think about it too much.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.